March 12th, 2026, Sheriff Chris Nanos dropped an absolute bombshell during an NBC News interview that should have stopped every true crime follower dead in their tracks. He firmly insisted detectives understood the exact reason for Nancy Guthrie vanishing since day one, from the initial moments of inquiry. Furthermore, that core theory remained completely unshaken through over 40 days of gathering clues, conducting lab work, and maintaining total secrecy. Yet simultaneously, federal agents continued pounding the pavement, canvassing the victim's neighborhood door to door, grilling locals about construction crews, laborers at adjacent plots, and a shady car seen on Via Entrada around 10 o'clock in the morning on January 31st. Reaching 46 days with 0 arrests, an 84-year-old lady remained totally vanished. Meanwhile, the chief leading this massive manhunt was broadcasting nationwide that he understood the underlying cause from the jump. Those two scenarios simply cannot coexist in the real world, meaning either the top cop withheld a massive secret, or the word knew is doing some incredibly heavy lifting in his statement. However, an entirely different scenario exists, and the physical clues strongly steer us directly down this alternative path. Federal authorities put in the grueling hours, uncovered the crucial proof, and then a massive disconnect occurred between their discoveries and the official press releases. Someone made a critical choice that bled away precious hours this desperate manhunt absolutely could not spare. Keep watching, because over the next 10 minutes, I will reveal the precise discoveries federal investigators uncovered within the residence of Nancy Guthrie, how their hands were tied, and why the glaring chasm connecting those physical clues to a formal capture forms the true heart of this mystery. For over 50 years, Nancy Guthrie called a single property home, nestled deeply within the picturesque Catalina foothills of Tucson, Arizona. This serene community rests within the northern desert, boasting expansive, silent avenues with residences tucked far behind long driveways and lush vegetation, forging an organic shield of absolute seclusion. Once darkness falls, passing vehicles become virtually non-existent. Locals resided there for decades, growing intimately familiar with daily habits, making violent offenses a completely foreign topic among neighbors. Ironically, that profound safety bubble cultivated across generations turned her into an easy target. The 84-year-old senior, as confirmed publicly by Sheriff Nanos, lacked the physical strength to traverse 50 yards independently without relying on substantial mobility support. An implanted device controlled her cardiac rhythm, and she depended on daily heart pills, which her daughter Savannah explicitly characterized to the press as an absolute lifeline. These critical dosages could not be skipped for even a day, nor delayed whatsoever. Skipping this vital regimen would trigger severe bodily decline in mere hours. Her mind remained incredibly quick, fiercely maintaining autonomy over her cherished routines, such as streaming weekly religious broadcasts over the internet, virtually joining the New York parish her daughter Savannah frequented, connecting right from her sofa instead of commuting through Tucson traffic. Nearby residents informed journalists about her increasing isolation over recent months, occasionally sparking deep concern whenever her familiar presence vanished from their daily view. As dusk settled on January 31st, 2026, the elderly mother shared a meal at her daughter Annie's residence, enjoying simple tabletop games during an incredibly mundane night destined to fade from memory. Completely typical in all respects, until disaster struck, prompting Annie's spouse, Tommaso Chione, to chauffeur his mother-in-law homeward. Security tapes proved the garage raised at 9:48 that night. Shutting firmly at 9:50, Tommaso lingered outside, ensuring her safe entry before driving off, unknowingly marking the ultimate verified sighting of Nancy Guthrie alive and well by her loved ones. By the next sunrise, a close pal showed up right on schedule to enjoy their routine virtual worship session together. The homeowner failed to answer the knock. Phone rings echoed in silence, forcing worried relatives to rush over and scour the entire grounds. Approaching midday, they dialed 911, bringing responding officers on scene by 12:15, who instantly deduced from the terrifying entryway scene that this frail grandmother had certainly not simply strolled off. Crimson stains became the primary horrifying clue. Perfect red beads dotted the main threshold, dropping vertically without smudging, completely devoid of sole prints cutting through them. The splatter pattern showed 0 gaps, indicating a trespasser's footstep, while her smart timepiece rested undisturbed indoors. Those critical life-saving pills sat exactly where she placed them on the island, alongside a fully intact purse and her mobile device. The digital peephole, usually affixed near the entryway, vanished entirely. Neither smashed to pieces nor covered up, forcibly ripped from the siding and stolen at 1:47 after midnight, sending it offline not via electrical fault, but through a calculating, fabric-covered palm that studied it, smothering the optic sensor using foliage ripped straight from the flower boxes, before proceeding to completely dismount the whole contraption. This shadowy figure sported a solid dark balaclava concealing his features, paired with ebony hand coverings and pale trousers, donning a murky coat, carrying a 25-liter Midnight Ozark Trail rucksack slung firmly over his shoulders. A lethal weapon sat secured in a tactical rig dead center on his sternum instead of his waist, while he clenched a tiny flashlight in his jaw for ultimate dexterity. Striding toward the lens, he exuded the chilling tranquility of a predator who had meticulously rehearsed this exact encounter before executing the sinister plan. Pitch black at 2:12 in the morning, a secondary security lens suddenly triggered, catching a predator prowling the grounds. Since the basic plan lacked cloud storage, there was 0 footage, just a cold digital stamp proving a prowler stood there. Then, at 2:28 in the morning, the invisible tether linking Nancy's heart monitor to her smartphone suddenly severed. Those wireless signals max out around 30 feet. The moment it flatlined, the victim was officially ripped from her residence. Whisked away in some escape ride, she vanished, leaving a chilling 41-minute gap between the destroyed lens and the silenced heartbeat. Just 8 minutes after her chest monitor disconnected, a mysterious getaway car flashed on a doorbell lens 2.5 miles away. Right then, the earthly tracks left by missing Nancy Guthrie turned absolutely black. Yet the crimson stains splattered across her front steps were quietly whispering secrets that lab techs were barely starting to decode. Translating the pattern of those vertical crimson splatters unlocked a direct path to the absolute biggest breakthrough of this entire manhunt. Federal agents scoured that messy stage, unearthing a clue that resolved a single mystery but spawned a much more terrifying riddle. Deep inside Guthrie's residence, technicians swabbed genetic matter, and it absolutely wasn't hers, nor did it match any known relatives or friends. They collected biological traces of intruders standing right inside her living room during those fatal 41 minutes. And it wasn't just one unknown threat. 2 phantoms left a tangled cellular profile behind, blending the raw biological blueprints of multiple nameless ghosts into one messy swab. Sheriff Nanos publicly verified this nightmare on March 12, 2026, during a major television broadcast. He confessed the blended cellular evidence presented a massive technical hurdle that might take endless months to untangle. Federal agents immediately ran those ghosts through the main registry, that massive digital vault storing over 26 million criminal blueprints, only to hit a brick wall. Whoever dropped those twin cellular markers in Guthrie's hallway possessed completely clean sheets, totally absent from any federal law enforcement registry. These invisible ghosts lacked files, yet they breathed. Thankfully, cutting-edge ancestry magic capable of unmasking total ghosts outside the system had recently shattered mysteries way older than this fresh nightmare. This exact wizardry unmasked the infamous California predator after 4 decades and rapidly cornered the grim Idaho campus suspect within mere weeks. Next-gen family tree tracking completely bypasses the need for a villain's direct fingerprint in the primary criminal archives. Detectives just need a distant cousin, hunting down overlapping biological puzzle pieces to zero in through open-source heritage websites. Federal agents knew precisely where these specific clues belonged. They begged for jurisdiction but got brutally denied. The feds desperately needed those dirty black gloves shipped straight to their elite Quantico headquarters, the absolute pinnacle of domestic forensic science, boasting direct pipelines to the exact ancestry networks, cracking cases, gathering dust for generations. However, Puma County's lead sheriff fiercely shot them down. Instead, the critical swabs traveled to an outsourced commercial facility sitting out in sunny Deerfield Beach, down in Florida, honoring an ancient local law enforcement contract with Puma County. One Fed anonymously warned the press this stubborn call could fatally stall a ticking clock hunt. while a separate cable news insider completely lost their cool. That insider labeled the choice completely idiotic and totally unhinged, venting that federal teams would eventually seize the Florida stash anyway, restarting the biology work while stealing precious sand from an hourglass Guthrie desperately needed. Puma County supposedly blew roughly $200,000 funneling crime scene remnants into that specific Sunshine State contractor. The cornered sheriff loudly justified his controversial maneuver, claiming he fiercely demanded every physical clue stay consolidated alongside known relatives and local suspect files to guarantee seamless, side-by-side biological cross-checking. He forcefully rejected any accusations, suggesting he stonewalled the federal government's investigative momentum. Whispers from the Bureau painted a fiercely contradictory picture. Yet, this microscopic turf war wasn't the only fatal blunder crippling the frantic search. After local badges hastily swept the victim's entryway, they recklessly stripped the police tape in under 20 hours. Nosy regional broadcasters literally strolled right up to the welcome mat, broadcasting the raw crimson splatters to viewers. A highly sensitive biological battleground, the exact doorstep where an 84-year-old grandmother vanished, sat wide open for paparazzi boots long before federal analysts finished their deep clean. Later questioned about potentially changing his sloppy initial timeline, the sheriff confessed that hindsight is always 20/20, openly admitting he absolutely should have maintained a tighter crime scene lockdown. A seasoned, retired New York cop teaching high-level criminal justice bluntly stated, "The local squad totally fumbled the bag by abandoning the bloody porch way too fast." Another veteran badge, ex-deputy Richard Castigar Jr., a retired veteran who spent decades working right next to Nanos, dropped a bombshell to the Daily Mail, insisting federal agents should have taken over this investigation a full 2 weeks prior. He bluntly labeled the sheriff an obsessive control freak. As the chaos escalated, the sheriff stood before the press on February 2nd, boldly assuring everyone that their neighborhoods remained completely safe and free from any threat. Fast forward 40 days to that explosive NBC News sit-down, where he boasted about figuring out the motive since day one. He suddenly shifted gears, warning citizens the attacker could definitely strike again, shouting, "Do not assume you are protected just because the Guthries were targeted." Shockingly, the exact same leader delivered both of those completely contradictory statements. It is completely impossible to square those wildly opposing viewpoints without aggressively questioning his exact timeline of knowledge. What dark facts he purposely hid, and why he stayed absolutely silent during those 40 agonizing days. Extortion letters started appearing long before anyone even knew Nancy Guthrie was missing. That initial message struck Cole News 13 in Tucson through their digital portal on February 1st, the exact day her terrifying disappearance was officially flagged. Soon after, another letter dropped, followed by a third, all purposefully routed to journalists instead of the desperate relatives. Every single message demanded a massive Bitcoin payout, establishing strict timeframes that ultimately expired without any actual fallout. Lead FBI investigator Hythe Janae eventually announced to the press that the sender included a pair of highly classified clues completely hidden from the media. One detail explicitly mentioned the exact spot where the victim's Apple Watch was sitting inside her residence. The other clue accurately pinpointed a couple of shattered security lights hanging precariously by their wires out in the dark backyard, entirely shielded from any public street view and completely absent from all the early television broadcasts that aired prior. Detectives fully verified both chilling facts. Only an intruder who had physically walked through her property could have possessed such intimate knowledge. Experts deemed the communications totally authentic, but then the strict ultimatums established for February 5th and February 9th vanished. Relatives openly declared their readiness to hand over the cash, while Savannah Guthrie filmed an emotional, federally guided plea, begging the captors to release her beloved mother. Her sibling Cameron, an aviator who maintained total silence during the horrific nightmare, released a personal plea as the initial cutoff loomed, responding to the massive $6 million ransom. The massive fortune was secured. Yet the mysterious author who knew about the shattered exterior bulbs and the precise location of that smartwatch completely vanished, never sending another message to the terrified loved ones. They offered zero evidence of survival, zero directions, and completely ignored the family's heartbreaking pleas, dropping into permanent silence. By day 39, tracking hounds were pulled out of the woods, and right on day 41, investigators finally handed the thoroughly scoured residence back to the grieving relatives. The hotline stayed open, pushing the bounty past 1.2, hitting $2 million. Meanwhile, ex-federal supervisor Steve Moore openly stated that the dark truth belonged exclusively to the ruthless monsters who actually carried out the brutal attack, stressing that no hidden bystanders were about to magically appear, and proving this mystery relied entirely on hard physical evidence rather than a lucky phone call. The massive mystery quietly simmering beneath this entire chaotic investigation, which a handful of retired government detectives kept dancing around without ever outright addressing, focused on whether that chilling quiet following the extortion cutoff confirmed the public's worst nightmares, or if it pointed to a completely different, darker reality. Ex-federal executive John Miller reviewed the scattered clues and dropped a massive bombshell that mainstream journalists completely brushed off as a minor, insignificant detail. He argued the abduction derailed from the very first second, rather than unraveling days later when the ultimatums expired. Everything collapsed the exact instant the attacker confronted her on the dark evening of January 31st, triggering a fatal, unfixable mistake. So what exactly unfolded next? Those calculated press emails, the massive cryptocurrency extortions, and the highly tactical details wrapped in heavily structured phrasing were likely fabricated entirely to mask her brutal fate. Rather than actually orchestrating her safe return home, he chose one incredibly precise word. He suggested the perpetrator retroactively staged a hostage situation to hide a disastrous, unfixable tragedy that unfolded right there on her front steps. Veteran federal investigator Jennifer Coffindaffer actively analyzed the unfolding mystery in the public eye the moment it hit the morning headlines. Between dropping insights online and chatting with Newsweek, she dominated network television for 41 agonizing days, navigating endless delays and completely conflicting police briefings. She always delivered the raw truth about the evidence, completely refusing to spin the tragedy. On March 10th, 2026, she finally published a tiny phrase she had entirely avoided during her prior 6 weeks of coverage: glass half full. She also declared the scouting mission completely finished, yet purposefully avoided, confirming the missing mother was finally recovered. Emphasizing the scouting chapter's end carries an incredibly dark, highly technical implication within the secretive realm of major government manhunts. The exact moment detectives start rejecting massive civilian rescue parties, actively dismissing specialized volunteer fleets, it rarely implies the trail went permanently dead. It unfortunately means they already discovered the horrific truth. When cops suddenly call off a massive ground search, it usually means they already know the victim's grim fate. That hunt officially stops the second detectives realize that physical tracking is no longer the answer. Coffindaffer built her entire career spotting the exact difference between a totally dead-end case and an explosive secret investigation. Former federal agent and intelligence officer Tracy Walder tackled these exact same clues from a completely different angle. She immediately noticed this attack felt incredibly specific, involving a stalker driven by pure obsession or revenge, aimed directly at Savannah Guthrie rather than her mother, based entirely on Walder's professional breakdown of the events. Nancy was simply collateral damage and the easiest bridge to the actual person this attacker desperately wanted. Between her advanced age, restricted movement, rigid daily schedule, and her residence of over 50 years, she was basically a sitting duck for a criminal whose primary focus resided in another town completely. 3 veteran agents, using 3 completely different ways of thinking, somehow all landed on a chilling theory that none of them felt comfortable saying out loud, even though the raw data hidden behind their public comments made it painfully obvious. 46 days after her heart monitor flatlined at 2:28 a.m., this shifted from a rescue mission to a murder trial. If your friends are obsessed with this mystery and really need the unvarnished truth beyond the polished police briefings, forward them this exact breakdown immediately. Because mainstream news outlets are flat out ignoring these crucial details. Cops aren't just following one breadcrumb trail here. They are aggressively pushing multiple scientific angles all at once. Every single method acts as a unique shortcut heading straight toward the exact same suspect. Biological evidence snagged from the crime scene is undergoing intense genetic profiling. meaning the killer does not need prior arrests. Detectives just need one single family member. Literally anyone with matching chromosomes who uploaded their spit to open networks like 23andMe or Ancestry. Experts map out an extensive family tree from those loose connections, whittling down locations and traits until they trap their guy. Barbara Ray Venter, the legendary scientist who finally unmasked the infamous Golden State Killer, warned reporters that this takes extreme patience. Taking anywhere from 8 rapid hours to 2 grueling years to crack, mobile pings offer a completely separate timeline. Any active phone touching a signal tower leaves a permanent digital footprint that federal agents can easily subpoena. Absolutely every active gadget, bouncing around the Catalina foothills from the evening of January 31st through the early morning of February 1st, created an electronic receipt. The attacker's two-way radio wouldn't trigger those towers. But the secret getaway driver's smartphone absolutely could have pinged at 2:36 a.m. That black Ozark trail bag is strictly a Walmart exclusive. The gun sheath was right there on their shelves too. Federal agents pushed Walmart hard to track every single buyer of that gear weeks prior, while flashing pictures of the holster to local Tucson gun shops. Even paying with dirty paper bills leaves a retail paper trail. Cashiers stamp the exact minute. Security lenses capture the face. And recent deep dives from Cold Case Files USA claim that a guy named Dominic Evans, known as a 19-year crony of Tommaso Cian, carries a massive rap sheet full of serious theft charges. And these exact same insiders whisper that his actual body type perfectly mirrors the official suspect sketches down to the height, frame, right wrist ink, and a specific pinky band. Not a single police department has officially labeled Evans as a prime suspect or even a formal person of interest, yet everything about his involvement remains strictly unverified hearsay. What we actually know for a fact is that Derek Kalla, the scammer busted on February 5th for texting fake ransom demands to the family's secret mobile numbers, is currently locked out of his confiscated phone. Every single person in his address book and every shady text sent during the kidnapping window is currently feeding a massive 6-week digital manhunt run by the feds. The victim's blue Honda CR-V sat rotting inside a secured police garage for over 40 days. An inside source told Brian Enton that cops didn't rip the car apart for parts like they did in the Idaho murders. Instead, a botched computer backup completely fried the SUV's internal hard drive while technicians were digging for clues. A certified mechanic fixed the damage before returning the keys. That returned vehicle screams one absolute truth: the Bureau already gutted it for every microscopic clue, securely locking that evidence deep inside their active files. Now, let us dissect the real lesson hidden within this investigation, and taking a deep breath to grasp this matters immensely, since the implications echo far beyond just Nancy Guthrie. Whenever regional deputies clash with federal agents over a high-stakes abduction probe, battling over who holds the physical clues goes way beyond basic paperwork. It fundamentally dictates the forensic timeline. Florida's DNA Labs International undeniably runs a stellar operation, boasting a proven track record of cracking frozen mysteries. However, the Bureau's legendary Quantico laboratory houses a hyper-specialized beast, an ecosystem hardwired directly into cutting-edge genetic tracing networks. Advanced software capable of untangling messy biological mixtures, plus ironclad partnerships with major ancestral registries that guarantee lightning-fast results. Bypassing that unparalleled federal machinery does not destroy the sample, but it brutally drags out the clock. A lethal delay when dealing with an 84-year-old captive heavily dependent on a pacemaker and daily heart pills. The chilling reality behind this predatory selection is perfectly clear. Our Phantom Prowler first scouted her residence completely empty-handed on January 11th, before circling back equipped on January 24th. Strategically picking weekends, insiders leaking intel to Brian Anton and Fox News suggest stalking a vulnerable senior who kept strict habits within a sleepy community. Perfectly mirrors a textbook criminal profiling matrix, hunting the easiest possible mark while executing intensely calculated groundwork. That blend of caution proves our villain acted deliberately. Meanwhile, the two-way radio, assuming Jennifer Coffindaffer read the tea leaves right, practically guarantees an orchestrated tag team effort. Recognizing this highly organized, multi-layered conspiracy shatters any illusion of a random mugging gone wrong. perfectly echoing ex-federal agent Tracy Walder's grim warning about the precision behind this strike. Officers breached the home at 12:15 on February 1st, only to find Nancy Guthrie's vital heart pills abandoned on the counter alongside her smartwatch. Even her cellular device lay perfectly untouched. No bags were stuffed, and no voluntary departure occurred. After 5 decades under that roof, she vanished without taking a single earthly possession. Forensic machines are whirring, family trees are mapped, and telecom breadcrumbs are secured, lurking somewhere across the nation. An individual harbors the dark truth of exactly what unfolded during those missing 41 minutes. They sit there sweating as the bounty blasts past $1.2 million, witnessing federal squads swarm that block endlessly, debating if silence is fatal. Ring the tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Submit untraceable leads online at tips.fbi.gov. If this analysis pierced through the mainstream noise, smash that like button. A tiny click from you signals our team to keep ripping the lid off these complex mysteries. Lock in your subscription and ring the bell, because the second the dominoes fall here, we are dropping the uncensored truth first. For those craving a microscopic breakdown of the forensic clues pointing toward our phantom suspect, parsing exactly what the Bureau leaked versus what they are hiding, simply click the next upload. The actual profile is far sharper than network anchors admit. Catch you in the next stream. This case reminds us that evil does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it moves through quiet neighborhoods, hides behind ordinary routines, and takes advantage of trust, delay, and human weakness. That is why the real lesson here is not only about one victim, it is about responsibility. Every hour matters when a person disappears. Every decision matters when evidence is fresh. Every ignored warning, every delayed action, and every broken line of communication can cost something that can never be restored. Justice is not built on speeches. It is built on discipline, honesty, urgency, and compassion. Nancy Guthrie's story also teaches us something deeply human. Age does not reduce a person's worth. A vulnerable elderly woman deserves the same fierce protection, the same relentless pursuit of truth, and the same public care as anyone else. Her life mattered fully. Her dignity mattered fully. There is also a warning for all of us. We cannot let comfort blind us into believing that danger only lives somewhere else. Communities stay safe when people pay attention, speak up, and refuse silence. In the end, truth may be delayed, but it should never be abandoned. The strongest societies are not the ones that never face darkness. They are the ones that refuse to look away when darkness appears.